Hi guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from WhatCulture.
And I'm Andy Murray from WhatCulture, and coming up today I'm going to tell you about potential plans that WWE have for taking the Money in the Bank briefcase off Otis, and on top of that I have another story that I'm going to need to look at. I'm going to tell you what WWE fans are told when they're in the ThunderDome.
Plus some interesting notes on the whole Bayley and Sasha feud, and finally some good news, sort of, regarding WWE wrestler pay, sort of. This is the news.
Let's kick things off by talking Otis and the Money in the Bank briefcase. Report last night, WrestleVotes tweeting the following. There have been multiple pitched ideas to remove the Money in the Bank briefcase from Otis and make the storyline a main focus again. Some of which are really decent ideas, I've been told. However, and this is a big however, Otis's biggest fan is Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
So right now, no go. Yes, of course, Vince is going to be a big sticking point. We've had several reports since Otis was on the main roster, really, about how Vince just likes the guy and he finds him really funny and stuff. And it's easy to see why he would. It's kind of a low comedy act a lot of the time, and that rings Vince McMahon's bell. So Otis is in an interesting situation. I think WrestleMania 36, people were genuinely united in thinking that him overcoming Dolph and winning Mandy's heart, I guess, was kind of just like a sweet moment. It was a feel-good moment. Weren't too many complaints about that. If there were complaints about it, you're probably quite heartless, and that's a shame for you. But then we got to Money in the Bank the following month. Otis wins the briefcase, and it's a bit like, oh, well, not sure about this one. Very divisive thing. Some people loved it, some people not so much. They've now entered a really difficult situation with Otis and the Money in the Bank briefcase because, come on, you can't have Otis beat Roman Reigns, right? You can't do that. It's Otis. I like Otis, but come on, there's levels to this game. And similarly, on Raw, you've got either Drew McIntyre or Randy Orton. Drew McIntyre is a very popular, dominant figure as WWE Champion, and if Randy Orton wins it, he's one of the strongest booked WWE wrestlers of all time. It's a very hard sell. It doesn't help, of course, that the follow-up on Otis's Money in the Bank briefcase win hasn't been all that great. He's been on and off television a fair bit. He's currently feuding with The Miz and John Morrison. Lawyers suing lunchboxes. Mandy going to Raw. All kinds of weird stuff going on. But, you know, at the end of the day, man, it's a shame it had to come to this, but I think it might be the right move.
Well, it's not a shame it had to come to this, because when you, one of the few guaranteed, or should be at least, guaranteed long-term storylines should be who's going to win Money in the Bank and what are they going to do with it. Like, we start speculating on this months before Money in the Bank, and it feels yet again like WWE gets 2 weeks before the pay-per-view and goes, oh, bloody hell, give it the fat man, that'd be funny, wouldn't it? Who's going to cash in on? We'll work that one out later. Like, they didn't think this through whatsoever. Or if they did, just adapt. Like, I'd much rather him do some sort of crazy cash-in, because that's the thing. This is, almost, what's the phrase? Manna from heaven, is it? Like, this is just a gift from the gods, although this isn't Lucha Underground, that is there because the person who's got the briefcase maybe wouldn't necessarily win the title or get a title shot through the normal sort of processes. So, yeah, I don't like the idea of The Miz or John Morrison or both of them somehow getting this briefcase because of legal stuff, because that's not what, wrestling should be about. Like, we talked about this beforehand. In real life, if I was Otis, and to be honest, if lockdown continues the way it does, I probably will look like him pretty soon. Why wouldn't you just wait till Survivor Series?
Because it's Otis.
Well, granted, yeah. but if you can cash in on any world title and you want to get to Raw, because that's where Mandy Rose is, whoever's the WWE champion is going to have to face Roman Reigns because it's brand warfare, right? And he nearly killed his own cousin. So imagine what he's going to do to someone he doesn't care about. Yeah. Or, there's 2 Hell in a Cell matches, both for the world title, on, 2 weeks on Sunday or whatever it is. I don't get it, man.
I get what you're saying, but I actually kind of disagree. I think it's Otis. I don't think he should be a world champ.
Well, they should have given it to him.
I agree. I totally agree, but I don't think even in the situation of a Randy Orton or someone being beaten up and vulnerable, it's It's bloody Otis, you know?
but
They shouldn't have given it to him in the first place, I agree.
The Randy Orton, with his physique as well, getting pinned by Otis, is really funny.
It's very funny, I give you that.
Really funny. But, like, I'm intrigued to see what they do with it. Don't necessarily take it off him. Why not just do the fantasy booking that loads of people suggested from the very beginning, that he says, you know what? I'm a tag team wrestler. I've always been a tag team wrestler. I always will be a tag team wrestler, even though the tag team titles don't really mean anything, and anyone can really get a title shot. Just have them cash it. Have them cash in. Like, Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura could sell that so well of just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Look at us and look at those. Yeah, I don't know, but don't just take it off him, especially not in a court case, although I am excited to see Otis, going to court this week. There's going to be some great... Well, not great. There's just going to be some awful Vince McMahon. We're going to laugh at how bad it is. We're just certainly not laughing at Otis because we love him here at WhatCulture. But like you say, it was a bad booking decision that wasn't thought through beyond. Wouldn't it be funny to give him the title? Anyway, speaking of good long-term booking, let's talk about Sasha Banks and Bayley. They're, of course, set to collide for the SmackDown Women's Championship on Friday. I believe that's the 363rd day of Bayley's reign as SmackDown Women's Champion. Michael Hamlet pointed that one out for me. Oh, I love this story. Anyway, Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez, friends of the channel, dedicated some time to talking about it on the recent episodes of Wrestling Observer Radio, and noted that the WWE always plan on splitting the tandem up and having the feud, after putting them back together as a pairing in late 2019. Now, that is not a huge revelation, but the turn and feud between Bayley and Sasha has been teased for around 5 months before WWE finally pulled the trigger on it, and Meltzer sort of clarified there that they were going to do it, but the writers just kept putting it off and just kept putting it off because the two were so good as a double act. They'd originally planned, as I said, to pull the trigger sooner, but they, quote, kept moving it back and kept moving it back as they were thriving. I think this is one of the best things WWE's done in quite a long time, Andy.
Yeah, I think it's a smart way to do it. It's all very well having like a rigid idea and planning things out, but you know, if something's thriving, if something's doing really well, and it still has legs, there's no point in cutting it off and pulling the trigger early. So they've done the right thing there. They've been patient with it. They've seen that people were still enjoying the double act and all the stuff that it was bringing. And, you know, when the turn finally came, I certainly wasn't sitting there thinking, oh, that was long overdue. I thought, you know, for me personally, it was just the right time. It was the perfect moment. And, you know, Lord knows what happens with the feud now. We got the match on Friday. We've Michael Hamlet fantasy booked the draft to different brands, the Royal Rumble, the WrestleMania thing. It's a good idea. There's all kinds of scenarios you can come up with that would be very satisfying, and that's, you know, exciting. It's genuinely exciting.
Got a great question about that in the Twitter questions in due course, so we'll get into that in a second.
We shall indeed, and we will blast through these last two stories because we spent 6 minutes talking about Otis, of all things. Bloody hell. Let's talk ThunderDome. New report from PW Insider. ThunderDome, what do people get told when they're in there? How are they instructed? How are they directed by producers? The answer is not a great deal, apparently. So basically, when you get on this call, when a producer's in your ear, apparently you're given loose instructions on how to react. You're told when somebody is coming out and told to react, but you're not specifically told how. You don't get said, hey, you gotta cheer him, you gotta boo her, whatever. It's just make a reaction, be showy. This is all communicated through your headset and all this stuff. This is kind of disappointing, to be honest. I kind of like the idea of Vince talking to every fan individually, going, hey pal, why didn't you boo Baron Corbin? But it's obviously good to hear that WWE aren't being too iron fist with this.
Yes, exactly. I saw there was that footage that went around a while back about people saying, oh, here he is, Drew McIntyre, let's hear it for him. And I thought, oh, don't do that. And then people tried to say, well, AEW say, don't swear. Well, don't swear. Don't be an idiot.
Yeah, there's a bit of a difference there. I think people are just looking for any way they can to smash WWE and AEW against each other.
But I you know, it makes a lot of sense that, and it's gone are the days where wrestling fans used to try and react OTT to get a get spotted on the old camp, shots immediately after some sort of mad bump that someone's taken, and now people are trying to do it just to get in the background of the ThunderDome. So at least they're generating reactions, and it's always good to spot random people in there and point them out and stuff. I'll swear Michael Sidgwick was on the background for one of the pay-per-views recently. Honestly, it was a spitting image of him, and then there was like someone who looked a bit like Becky Lynch. It was all over the place. I think it was Clash of Champions. Anyway, let's finish up by talking about 2K Battlegrounds, the video game that is sweeping the nation. Anyway, per Fightful Select, apparently WWE wrestlers getting a bit of a decent payday off the back of this. They're going to receive a bonus of 35 grand for their appearance in the game, which is particularly good considering 2K Battlegrounds isn't predicted to sell as well as the normal 2K series, which was so good. I wonder why they didn't bring it back this year. Anyway, but there is a caveat to all this. The bonus system isn't as straightforward. Some wrestlers featured as bonus DLC content have told they aren't eligible for the extra money because they lack main roster contracts. What do you reckon of this news, Andy, especially as someone who has played 2K Battlegrounds?
I'm in favour of the underpaid independent contractors of WWE who have just been told they can no longer earn extra income from Twitch. I am very much in favour of all these people getting as much money as possible, and I'll leave it at that.
Thoughts on 2K Battlegrounds?
It's not. I'm a 32-year-old man. It's not for me.
Yeah,
I gave it 3 stars in our review, though. So you got kids, you probably like it.
Yeah, there you go. Right, let's move on to Twitter questions at WhatCulture WWE. Of course, if you want to get in touch with us. First question today comes from Adam Smith, who says, "Happy Hump Day, lads." Happy Hump Day to you, Adam. With AEW digging up the dog collar match and old pay-per-view favourites like Halloween Havoc being exhumed by NXT, great use of the words exhumed there, what gimmick match would you pick for one more go-around, and who would it feature?
Well, seeing as you mentioned Halloween Havoc, how about the Monster Truck Sumo match? The Hulk Hogan versus Giant Classic, in which Mr. Paul White was literally murdered by being thrown off the roof by Hulk Hogan and then returned like an hour later for the main event of the same show, which saw the debut of the Yeti, of course.
Yes.
So I'm all for that.
That's how Otis should win the title.
Oh, God. All right, book it, Vince.
Well, my brain is saying, Colonel from hell, Colonel from hell. But I am going to go with Sue on a forklift.
Yes. Sue Bagwell.
And I'm going to put Orange Cassidy in there. Trent's going to be taken out in the build to this. It's going to be Orange Cassidy versus Buff Bagwell because he's got experience in these sorts of matches. Let us know, though, your favourite gimmick matches that need to make a return and the people you'd like to see in it in the comment section below. Second question today comes from Mark Smith. No relation, I assume, to Adam Smith. And also relates to Sasha and Bayley, as I alluded to earlier. It says, with Sasha and Bayley going down on Friday night, could the loser, most likely Sasha, be drafted to Raw in an attempt to get this feud to headline WrestleMania 37 with Sasha winning the Royal Rumble?
Yeah, I think that's the most compelling way to do it because you can have this idea of unfinished business coming out of the title match this week, but then prolong the gratification of getting that by putting them on separate brands. You can build tension, all this other stuff. I think it's by far the most compelling booking choice. Yeah,
Hamflet has fantasy booked this perfectly, in my opinion, and has been covering this feud from the beginning and getting everyone here at WhatCulture really excited about it, to be fair. He suggested actually Sasha winning the title on Friday, then a match set for Hell in a Cell with the loser of said match not only not having the title, but also going to Monday Night Raw. That should be Sasha, because she never bloody wins on pay-per-view when in the singles title matches. And then, then have her win the Royal Rumble. It's really good. And if you want to know more about this, go and check out the podcast me and Hamflet did yesterday on who needs to move in the WWE draft, because we've got loads of stuff like that, loads of speculation about where WWE are going. WhatCulture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts from. Final question today comes from Akansh Sukale. Really sorry if I butchered that name. It was the best I can do. Do you guys think AEW needs a weight division title like the Cruiserweight, but more streamlined? I think a title like that can really boost the talent pool they have and can be showcased on Dark and Dynamite.
Nah, simple answer for me, no. I think AEW already has enough championships. I know they have, quite a stacked roster now. There's a lot of people there, but I think what they have is enough. And also, you know, AEW's roster generally, I don't have any numbers to back this up, but it seems like it's a lighter wrestler place. There's a lot of big beefy boys in AEW now, and a lot of people forget that, but at the same time, generally, I would suggest that the average AEW wrestler is a lot smaller, so I don't think there's any real need for it at all. You'd probably have the majority of the wrestler competing in like the equivalent of a cruiserweight division, so straight no from me.
Yeah, I think a lot of people see that Darby Allin Ricky Starks match from last week and say, oh, wouldn't it be great if there was some sort of title involved in this? But you can rotate, you know, the TNT Championship around to them just because a massive bastard like Brody Lee's got it. Well, for now, the dog collar match is, of course, tonight on AEW Dynamite. Doesn't mean that later on you couldn't see someone the stature of a Darby Allin or a Ricky Starks or whatever. And let's not forget, along with all the other world titles, tag titles, etc., they've still got that FTW Championship over Brian Cage's shoulder that just isn't getting defended. If you want to just randomly have a new title get defended, just have that, I suppose.
There you go.
Right, let's move on to today's, and finally a shout out to Wrestling Optimus who tagged me in this. Of course, WWE Draft coming up on this Friday and then on Monday. WWE on Fox tweeting all about it, saying, oh, the draft begins on Friday. And slightly left field name, chucking their name into the hat for this draft. That being Chuck E. Cheese. The Chuck E. Cheese mascot tweeted, I'd like to enter the draft. Wrestling Optimus tagged me in this, saying, look who wants to be in the draft, basically. And Chuck E. Cheese then responded, saying, my middle name used to be Federation. So, is this real life? What is going on, Andy?
I don't know what Chuck E. Cheese is, but I assume it's some kind of cheddar-based Twitter user.
It's a mouse-based mascot for cheese, I think.
2020 is a movie. Man, we are in the third act now. This is... But Andy H. Murray, happy birthday, Rhino.
I've just looked, and it's on Chuck E. Cheese.
I'm off.
He's playing Fall Guys. He's playing Fall Guys, and he's got a little screen of himself. It's a little mascot for him. It's amazing. Oh, anyway, right, let's hear your thoughts on that. I've gone to pieces. And all today's news stories in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. For daily wrestling podcasts, myself and the Daddy Boys preview the Wednesday. I've got to shut this. Preview the Wednesday night a little bit later on today. Let us know your thoughts and Twitter questions on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. Watch there, follow both of us. Follow me at Adam Wilborn. Follow him at Andy H. Murray. The H stands for Happy Birthday Rhino. Follow us all at WhatCultureWWE. But from him and from me, apologies. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon.